The Center for Investigative Reporting has been small. I basically have spent the last 7 months trying to grow it, do the work, and also what we are going to do, and I think a lot of people are doing this, it's not just our idea, is completely think about how to reach audience with content and stories. And do it in a way where you create teams of people, and this looks to the future, and where I get my momentum from is a new model, but to reach audience, not just locally, globally, but nationally. With the tools we have in terms of technology, you can have a huge difference, I believe, in terms of informing the public and drive policy and drive the public to act. So if you conceive of doing the right story where it's delivered almost simultaneously in a documentary, whether it's on television, in a film, a general release film, with multimedia supporting it, with print, with podcasts, with video clips broken out. You know, I talked to Alex Gibney about A Taxi to the Dark Side. That's obscene that film has not been seen by mass audience in this country. It is really wrong. You know, he did not start that film with small video clips, whether they could go on somebody's cell phone or however they're going to use it. The next time he does a film, he'll probably do that. I'm doing a film now, which we hope will be very successful around climate change, but it's going to be sent out in a way, I don't care how people get the story. You have to let the audience decide how they're going to get it. And I think that's really part of the new model going forward. In doing that, it's really a different idea, and a lot of it will be done through collaborations. I'm not going to have enough people to do all these things, but through collaborations with big media, with small media, with websites, with other organizations that know how to get the story, this can be done. The model of collaboration did not exist. When I was the editor of the Inquirer, I did not want to collaborate. I had 630 people. I had Bartlett and Steele. I had Pulitzer Prize winners around the room. I could get it done. It has completely changed because of the downsizing. I'm talking to the Washington Post. I'm talking to everybody. They want to collaborate. They all want content. So there's a huge opportunity now created by the new technologies. The other day we heard Peter talk about this convergence and talked about the one-penny newspaper and then the radio and how technology melded with all the forces that were created globally and all the problems created change. We are now in the time of, I think, the greatest opportunity to disseminate and inform the public that's ever existed on a global scale. And I'm incredibly excited about it. It's extremely difficult, but it's absolutely crucial. I want to talk about one story we're doing to sort of explain the model. Shortly after I joined the center, I got a phone call from a guy named John Fleming in a paper called the Anniston Star in Anniston, Alabama. And he had found out that a sheriff somewhere in Alabama was a former Klansman who had actually been involved, he believes, in killing blacks during the Civil Rights era. He did not know how to do. He didn't know how to get the Freedom of Information Act. He needed help going after the FBI files around this. I found out that there were other journalists doing the same thing. I went to Jackson, Mississippi, and this is where I get my momentum and some of my inspiration, where I met with 4 journalists, all who work for very small newspapers throughout the South, some of whom have been very effective at bringing people to justice. They are completely focused on this. One of the men is named Stanley Nelson. He runs a weekly newspaper in a place called Faraday, Louisiana, which is a small parish opposite Natchez on the Mississippi. Stanley wrote a story in his paper a few weeks ago, about 8 months ago, about a firebombing in a cobbler's shop in 1968 where a man he knew, he was a little boy, was found burned to death in his shop. He got a tip, or someone told him, that actually that guy may have been murdered. He got some FBI files, heavily redacted, but he learned enough to realize that this had probably been a planned killing by the Klan. He wrote a small story in his newspaper. As a result, all the whites in the parish were like outraged. Why are you dredging this up? But the black people, and some people he'd known his whole life, some had worked with him, some were his friends, came to him and told him other stories. One man he'd known his own life came to him and said, "Do you know about my 3 sisters?" He said, "No, I didn't even know you had 3 sisters." And he told him that on the day before Thanksgiving in November 1968, he had been at home when the sheriff came and brought the bodies of his 3 sisters. They'd all been drowned in a pond. It was a cold, windy day. They'd never been in a rowboat in their entire lives, and they didn't fish. The sheriff told them they were out fishing in a rowboat, and it capsized. One of the girls was naked. The other just had her panties on. People heard screaming. Stanley wondered what the hell happened. He looked and found some files that, again, heavily redacted that indicated that a group called the Silver Dollar Klansmen had been involved in the killing. When the man told Stanley the story, he looked at Stanley and said, "The killers are walking among us." So basically, we're trying, this is a new media idea, model. We are going to put together, and we're trying to do this, a story not only about these killings we've discovered through these 3 journalists that have never been accounted for in this country during the civil rights era, and do the stories not only as films, but as print stories, but also create the definitive digital archive on the victims of the civil rights era and house it at a black university. It's a huge idea. I'm trying to get it done. But I'm just telling you that story because you would not do this in a traditional newsroom. You would not even think of doing this. But the necessity for me of doing the story, and the necessity that drives probably the other speakers, is going to create new ideas and new ways of doing things that did not exist. So out of all this chaos, there is huge opportunity to impact that. That, if we pull that off, it will involve students. It will involve students from Howard University, Syracuse University, other universities, and be a huge teaching tool for this country about reconciliation and about what really happened. Work has been done around that. I'm not saying it hasn't been done, but if we get a new president, who we think we're going to get, or we hope we're going to get, it is going to be really important. The issue of race is undercurrent of everything that we do in this society. So that type of storytelling will have to be done through huge collaborations that never existed before. But the goal is impact, change, and inform the public, which are the most traditional roles in this country of the press. I'm going to end this by quoting Thomas Jefferson, who 200 years ago, and it's totally applicable today. His language is a little different than we'd speak, but you'll get the point. I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion. Thank you.